Hello class. Okay, so out on the discussion board I found this question, and it's so well written that I thought I would share it with you. And it's wrong, but it's clear, and it asked me a very specific question that I think I could help with. So I'm not picking on this person. In fact, actually I think this is a really great post, and I think everybody maybe could gain some insight by looking at this thing and the answer I'm going to try to offer. Okay, so the issue was the market for unskilled labor, and the president's going to set a minimum wage at $8.50. So let this be the supply and demand for unskilled labor, and it doesn't really matter what we set as the market clearing wage. It just needs to be less than $8.50. So I'm just going to arbitrarily set it at, say, $5. But it doesn't really matter. It could be anything. And then the president has basically a binding price floor set up here at $8.50. And the question is, well, what happens? Well, the law just says that you must pay unskilled labor at least $8.50 an hour. You could pay them more, but you can't pay them less. But of course, the market is trying to drive the wage to $5. That's the market clearing wage, where the quantity demanded of unskilled labor and the quantity supplied of unskilled labor would be the same. So basically what we have is we have a binding price floor. So now the first question, does anything happen to the demand curve? No, it doesn't. The demand curve is defined to be a schedule of all the possible prices and the corresponding quantities demanded. Right? So no matter what the price is, you can imagine all the possible prices that there might be over here and the corresponding quantities demanded that go down here. So no, the demand curve does not move. But at the higher wage, the number of jobs available would be much, much less. So that's this. The quantity demanded of unskilled labor will fall from over here, where it would be at equilibrium, back over to here. Now, what would happen to the supply curve? Again, nothing would happen to the supply curve, because the supply curve is defined to be all the possible prices that there might be and the corresponding quantity supplied out there. So if this seems confusing to you, you should go back to lesson number 1 in the supply and demand, where I kind of lay out that long speech about never use the word supply by itself, always use the term supply curve or demand curve. And I try to go over there about how it is a change in price does not move a supply curve, or for that matter a demand curve. But it is true that at the higher wage of $8.50, a lot more people are going to be eager to work. That's the quantity supplied. So the quantity supplied increases way out to here. So far we have the demand curve remains the same, the supply curve remains the same, quantity demanded decreases, quantity supplied increases, and now the last question is, what happens to the price? It turns out this is a really tricky question. A student who doesn't think about it very much will answer kind of naively that, whoa, the price has gone up, right? Price has gone up. But that's not really true for everyone. Imagine these folks down here. All these people between the origin and out here to the quantity demanded of unskilled labor. For all of these people, it is true that the wage has gone up from $5 to $8.50. Now I want you to think about these folks right here. What is their story? These are people who used to work when the wage was $5 an hour, but now at $8.50 an hour they've been laid off. So they are not better off. It's kind of it's sort of a word game. They make $8.50 an hour, but they work 0 hours a week. 0 hours a week. So no, for them, wages have not gone up. And then these over here are a little harder to describe who these are. These are people who, at the old wage of $5, weren't interested in working, So they were at home or maybe in school or not, or retired, I don't know. They were doing something else, but they didn't care to work for $5 an hour. But now at $8.50 an hour, they want to work. So they're searching for work, and they don't find work either. All of these people are worse off, not better off. Now the second part of the question was, what would happen in the market for automated machinery? All right. So automated machinery is a substitute for unskilled labor. So if unskilled labor gets expensive, the demand curve for automated machinery would increase. We would establish a new equilibrium here. The supply curve for automated equipment would stay the same, but at the higher selling price of this equipment, the quantity supplied and the quantity demanded would be higher. So this black dot is the original equilibrium, and the red dot is the new equilibrium. And so we can see that the demand curve has increased, the supply curve has stayed the same, quantity demanded and quantity supplied have both increased from the original equilibrium out to the new one. That, by the way, is sometimes difficult for students to see. Every now and then somebody will ask me about this. The easiest way to see it is to recognize that the equilibrium quantity is the quantity where quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. So basically you have two equilibriums here. You have the original equilibrium, and the quantity demanded moves from here over to there to the new spot. And the same thing happens to the quantity supplied, because they were equal originally, and now they're equal again at the new equilibrium. Alright, so one more time. The demand curve has increased, the supply curve has remained the same, quantity demanded and quantity supplied have both increased, and the price has increased. So that's the technical side of economics. On the political side, it's an interesting question to ask, well, who would be in favor of a minimum wage law? Well, obviously, these folks over here would be in favor of it because they're better off. These folks over here, if they are aware of what's happened, they might not be, but if they are aware of why they've lost their jobs, they're not in favor of it. And then, of course, people who sell automated equipment, they obviously would be in favor of a minimum wage law because it eliminates one of their competitors. Okay, I hope this was helpful. Good luck.